Now, so good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We have with us here Dr. Jyotsna Zope. Let me just start by sharing the screen and starting off. And welcome to everybody who's joined both on Zoom as well as on our Facebook stream. So, quick recap on the topic today. We are going to talk about managing chronic kidney health issues during the pandemic, but also with a special focus on monsoon. Because there are certain additional precautions that are required during the rainy season. So quick introduction on Patients Engage. We are an online platform operational for 5 years and focused on evidence-based and holistic management of chronic conditions from the perspective of patients and family caregivers. We truly believe in the value of lived experiences and how sharing of lived experiences gives people the feeling that they're not alone. And also how being engaged and informed about your condition leaves you with a stronger sense of empowerment and also better decision making. All of that leads to a better quality of life. We cover a wide range of conditions, but today we are here to talk about kidney health. And we have with us Dr. Jyotsna Zope, who's a consultant nephrologist at Mukta Kidney and Dialysis Clinic, but also consults in a lot of other hospitals. And just a quick guideline to people. While we'll address your questions, please do send in your questions on the Q&A if you're logged into Zoom. And if you're on Facebook, you can post your comments, questions on the live feed. This does not replace your personal consultations, and this session will be recorded. As always, you can follow us on our channels. Our website is patientsengage.com. Facebook also we are there. And all of our webinar content gets uploaded onto YouTube as well. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to write into us, share an experience, you can write to editor@patientsengage.com. So I won't take up too much of, time talking. Let's get straight into talking to Dr. Zope. And, she will answer the questions in both English and in Marathi. So Dr. Zope, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, and then I will start asking the questions.
Yeah, namaste. Thank you, Aparna ji, for giving me the opportunity. I'm Dr. Jyotsna Zope. I am a practicing nephrologist. I practice in Mumbai and suburbs of Mumbai. I'm attached with Bhaktivedanta Hospital and SL Raheja Fortis Hospital. I have my own chain of dialysis unit by the name of Mukta Kidney and Dialysis Clinic. And we have clinics all over the places in Mumbai. Over to you, Aparna.
Thank you.
I have done my specialization from England, UK.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, doctor. So quick question, I think let's start because it is the rainy season. What precautions do people need to take, kidney patients need to take during these times, especially in monsoon, in Mumbai and in the rest of the country as well?
Yeah, basically in rainy season, it's always a fear that you will not be able to reach the dialysis unit because in India or in Mumbai, sometimes patients have to travel a long distance to reach to the dialysis unit, and in rainy season sometimes it becomes very difficult, and there is a fear of missing out on their dialysis session. So that should not happen. So while choosing the dialysis unit, you should pay attention to these things, that the dialysis unit is easily reachable, in a reaching distance of your home or something like that.
Right.
The other precaution which you should take during rainy season is the quality of water you drink, I'm very fussy about it throughout the year, but especially in rainy season. I always advise patients to uh, uh, heat the water and then cool it, and do it yourself, and take that water. That is very helpful. That prevents lot many waterborne diseases, infectious diseases.
Mm.
I advise them not to eat too many leafy vegetables and things in rainy season. दाल वाल खाओ रेनी सीजन में तो अच्छा है.
Right.
इससे हम बहुत सारे इन्फेक्शियस डिजीजेस को प्रिवेंट कर सकते हैं.
Right. And do you want to just summarize what you just said in Marathi as well, doctor?
हा हा बरोबर आहे. कारण मुंबईमध्ये तर फारच पिक्युलियर आहे मुंबई. कारण दर रेनी सीझन मध्ये मुंबई सगळं भरून जातं आणि तुंबून जातं. आणि त्याच्यामध्ये एक भीती अशी असते ना, की बरोबर डायलिसिस युनिट मध्ये आपण पोचू का नाही पोचू, का आपल्याला डायलिसिस मिस करायला लागेल, ही खूप एक भीती असते. तर त्याच्यामुळे जेव्हा आपण डायलिसिस युनिट हे सिलेक्ट करतो आपल्या ट्रीटमेंटसाठी, त्यावेळेला या सगळ्या गोष्टींकडे आपण लक्ष द्यायला पाहिजे, की डायलिसिस युनिट आपल्या घराच्या किती लांब आहे, किती आपल्याला जायला कन्व्हिनियंट आहे, सोपं असायला पाहिजे. नाहीतर मग आपण कंटाळा करतो. किंवा तिथलं वातावरण जे आहे ते फ्रेंडली असायला पाहिजे. तिथलं आतमधले हायजीन आहे किंवा मशिनरी आहे ती सगळी व्यवस्थित असली पाहिजे. हे सगळं बघायला पाहिजे आपण जेव्हा आपण ऍक्च्युली डायलिसिस युनिट हे सिलेक्ट करतो. तर रेनी सीझनचं आपण जर गोष्ट करतो तर हे खूप इम्पॉर्टंट आहे, की रेनी सीझन म्हणजे पाऊस पडतोय का नाही पडतोय, आपल्याला आपलं डायलिसिस मिस करायला लागायला नाही पाहिजे, हे आपण बघायला पाहिजे. दुसरी गोष्ट मी असं म्हटलं की जेवणामध्ये वगैरे पाण्याचं खूप चांगलं पाणी आपण प्यायला पाहिजे. असं वाटेल ते पाणी प्यायला नको पाहिजे. आपण आपलं पाणी स्वतः उकळायचं, स्वतः ते गार करायचं आणि तेच पाणी प्यायचं. आणि मी त्याला या गोष्टीला खूप इम्पॉर्टन्स देते. तसंच जेवणामध्ये सुद्धा ग्रीन लिफी व्हेजिटेबल्स किंवा बाजारातून आणलेल्या व्हेजिटेबल्स खायलाच पाहिजे रेनी सीझन मध्ये, म्हणते मी, बाकीच्या वेळेचं नाही म्हणत. तर रेनी सीझन मध्ये हे सगळं अवॉइड करायचं, कमीत कमी आपण त्याचा वापर करायचा. म्हणजे त्याच्याने काय होतं की वॉटरबॉर्न डिसीजेस जे आपल्याला रेनी सीझन मध्ये होतात ते आपण मोठ्या प्रमाणात अवॉइड करू शकतो. डायलिसिस पेशंटचं कसं इम्युनिटी वगैरे खूप नाजूक असते, त्यामुळे हे सगळं जितकं प्रिव्हेन्शन आपल्याला करता येईल तितकं प्रिव्हेन्शन आपण करायला पाहिजे. उदाहरणार्थ आम्ही हे प्रिव्हेन्शनसाठी बरेच इम्युनायझेशन प्रोटोकॉल आम्ही फॉलो करतो. त्याच्यामध्ये उदाहरणार्थ इन्फ्लुएन्झा वॅक्सिन आम्ही दरवर्षी घ्यायला आम्ही ऍडवाइस करतो. त्याचप्रमाणे न्यूमोकॉकल वॅक्सिन, म्हणजे ज्याच्याने न्यूमोनिया होतो. न्यूमोनिया तर सर्वांना आता या पॅन्डेमिकमुळे लक्षात आलंच असेल. न्यूमोनिया म्हणजे छातीचं इन्फेक्शन. हे पण या थंड हवेमध्ये कॉमन असतं. इन्फ्लुएन्झा कॉमन असतं, डेंग्यू कॉमन असतो, मलेरिया कॉमन असतो, कारण मच्छर सगळीकडे येतात. तर त्याच्यापासून पण आपल्याला प्रोटेक्शन हे मिळालं पाहिजे. तर त्याची सगळी आपण काळजी स्वतःच घेतली पाहिजे. जसं जेणेकरून घरामध्ये संध्याकाळी दरवाजे बंद करायचे, जेणेकरून बाहेरचे मच्छर घरामध्ये येणार नाही. हे सगळं इम्पॉर्टंट गोष्टी आहे. आपण आपल्याला स्वतःला जितकं प्रोटेक्ट करू, जितकं डिझीज प्रिव्हेंट करू तितकं चांगलं.
Right. And can you just also summarize the part about the vaccines and the immunization in English now?
Yes, in all dialysis patients, irrespective of anything, all dialysis patients or without dialysis, even the elderly people, all of you know the immunization schedule given to a small children, a newborn.
Right.
Similarly, on a similar ground, there is now an advisory which says immunization in adult, that is adult immunization. Now, if you are talking about the dialysis population, we have a specific advisory of immunizing them for certain diseases which they are more, they can get those diseases more often,
right,
than other people. So in those, there are hepatitis B, influenza, pneumococcal infection. These are very common in dialysis patients. So we advise them to get immunized well in advance in their course of CKD, not at the last, well in advance when they are going through a CKD stages. We advise them to go through all these immunization thing. And now there is another new vaccine which is on the horizon, that is COVID-19 vaccine. So let's see how we will be able to use that to protect our dialysis patients.
Right, right. Okay, we've got a couple of questions that have come in. How much Hg levels need to be maintained in CKD patients?
The ideal hemoglobin level in male and female without kidney disease is, all of you know, 13, 14, 14, 15 grams %. But in dialysis patients, we ask them to keep it at around 10, 11. Between 10 grams to 11 grams, we are happy. We don't want to reach up to 13 or 14.
Right, right. Okay.
तर डायलिसिसच्या पेशंटना साधारण हिमोग्लोबिनचं प्रमाण हे 10 ते 11च्या मध्ये ठेवणं गरजेचं आहे. फार नॉर्मल लेवल पर्यंत जाण्याची गरज नाही. नॉर्मल लेवल असते 13, 14 किंवा 14, 15 माणसांमध्ये थोडंसं जास्त असतं बायकांपेक्षा. पण डायलिसिसचे जे पेशंट आहेत त्यांना आपण म्हणतो तुम्ही तुमचं हिमोग्लोबिन 10 ते 11च्या रेंज मध्ये ठेवा.
Right, right. Okay, thank you. Question, one more question. For uric acid and protein in urine and blood clotting. Actually, the question is not clear. Whoever has asked that question, can you clarify what is the question? Because you're asking for a post-transplant patient, but the question itself is not clear. So please clarify. Another question: as the proteins get drained during dialysis, is it good to take supplements like Nephro-HP and Paneer?
Yes, 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 definitely. Definitely. Dialysis drains out little bit of protein. We must say. It's not only good, only waste product goes out. Little bit of protein also goes out. To maintain our body's protein levels, I think we should see to it that we take a good amount of protein in our diet.
Right.
डायलिसिसच्या पेशंटनी प्रोटीनची मात्रा घेतली पाहिजे. कारण हा प्रश्न अशासाठी विचारला गेला आहे की सीकेडी स्टेजेस मध्ये ज्या वेळेला पेशंट जात असतो त्यावेळेला अमुक पेशंटना सांगण्यात येतं की तुम्ही लो प्रोटीन डाएट घ्या. पण लो प्रोटीन डाएट कॉन्स्टंटली खूप वर्ष घेऊन चालत नाही. त्याच्यामुळे निगेटिव्ह बॅलन्स मध्ये माणूस जाऊ शकतो. जर तुम्ही लो प्रोटीन डाएट ऍडवाइस केलं असेल किंवा घेत असाल तर त्याला इसेन्शियल अमायनो ऍसिडची सप्लिमेंट घ्यावी लागते. इफ यू आर टेकिंग ए लो प्रोटीन डाएट, इट नीड्स टू बी सप्लिमेंटेड विथ इसेन्शियल अमायनो ऍसिड. Then only your body's protein balance will be maintained nicely over the period of time.
Right, right.
हेच ऍडवाइस काय होतं ज्या वेळेला पेशंटला डायलिसिस चालू होतं तोच ऍडवाइस पेशंट पुढे कॅरी ऑन करतो की आम्हाला तर लो प्रोटीन डाएट घ्यायला सांगितलेलं आहे. पण ज्यावेळेला तुम्ही डायलिसिस चालू होतात ना तर त्यावेळेला डायलिसिस मधून जसं वेस्ट प्रॉडक्ट बाहेर जातं त्याप्रमाणे थोडं थोडं प्रोटीन पण बाहेर जातं. आणि त्याच्यासाठी तुम्ही तुमच्या डाएट मध्ये व्यवस्थित प्रोटीनचं इंटेक घेणं गरजेचं आहे. आणि नॉर्मल डाएट मधनं ते प्रोटीन येतं. ऍडिशनल सप्लिमेंट तुम्ही जसं आपण जी म्हटलं की पनीर वगैरे खाऊ शकता, तुम्ही सोया खाऊ शकतात, सोयाचं पनीर ज्याला टोफू म्हणतात ते खाऊ शकतात. किंवा मग कोणाला जर ते खाल्लं जात नसेल तर प्रोटीनची पावडर घेऊ शकते जे दुधामध्ये किंवा पाण्यामध्ये कालवून प्रोटीनची पावडर खाऊ शकतात. पण प्रोटीनचा इंटेक असायला पाहिजे.
राईट, राईट. Okay. Follow-up question on that. Also, the BP level goes down after regular dialysis. How do we keep the balance of the BP level?
Okay. आता हे जाणणं खूप गरजेचं आहे की डायलिसिस मध्ये बीपी लेवल का खाली जाते. बीपी लेवल खाली जाण्याचे कारण वेगवेगळे असू शकतात. त्याच्यामध्ये एक आहे की ज्या लोकांना पाणी खूप वाढलेलं असतं, ज्याला फ्लुइड ओव्हरलोड म्हणतो, आणि ते पाणी आपण डायलिसिस मधनं काढतो, तर त्याच्यानंतर जसं जसं पाणी निघतं बाहेर तसं तसं ब्लड प्रेशरची लेवल खाली होत जाते. जर तुमच्या युनिटने बरोबर तुमचं ड्राय वेट सेट केलं असेल तर तुम्हाला प्रॉब्लेम येत नाही. कधी कधी असं होतं, हे सगळ्या केसेसमध्ये आहे असं इंडिव्हिज्युअल याचं धरू नका. मी वेगवेगळे तुम्हाला कारण सांगते. जर जास्त शरीरातलं पाणी काढलं तर हायपोटेन्शन म्हणजे लो ब्लड प्रेशर होऊ शकतं. किंवा जे तुम्ही अँटी हायपरटेन्सिव्ह मेडिसिन घेतात, अमुक अँटी हायपरटेन्सिव्ह मेडिसिन हे त्या डायलायझर मधनं फिल्टर आउट होऊन बाहेर जातात आणि त्याचा शरीरामध्ये असलेला इफेक्ट हा कमी होतो. त्याच्यामुळे ब्लड प्रेशर वर जातं कधी, आणि पाणी काढल्याने ब्लड प्रेशर हे खाली जातं. किंवा जर तुमच्या शरीरामध्ये इन्फेक्शन असेल किंवा तुमचं जे युएफ रेट आहे, मशीन मधला युएफ रेट आहे, तो जर फास्ट लावला असेल तर त्याच्यामध्ये सुद्धा तुमचं ब्लड प्रेशर हे लो होऊ शकतं.
Right. Okay. So the clarification on the question has come. Any precautions and medications required for uric acid and protein in urine for a kidney transplant patient, and any medication for blood clotting?
It's a very vague question. I think it's a very huge. I mean, he's trying to ask everything. What should I say? The protein in the urine in a transplant patient, or
maybe you can just focus on the first part about precautions for ensuring that you don't have, uric acid and protein in the urine is.
Don't take uric acid. It's a protein in the urine. The protein in the urine in any setup, whether it is a transplant patient or a CKD patient, protein comes in the urine when there is an injury to the kidney.
Right.
Injury to the glomeruli. Because of that, the protein gets leaked out into the urine. If the level of proteinuria, what we call protein in urine is proteinuria. If the level of protein in the urine is high, that means there is a significant damage. And if you keep on following those levels, and if they keep on rising, then you can say my internal kidney is the damage is increasing. You can say that.
Right. Okay, thank you. Question: which is better for LVEF patient, hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis?
Left ventricular LVEF is left ventricular ejection fraction. All our patients, they have some kind of reduction in LVEF. इजेक्शन फ्रॅक्शन म्हणजे जसं हार्ट आपलं इजेक्ट करतं ब्लड, त्याचा फोर्स हा किती असतो. तर सर्व पेशंटना थोडा हार्टचा प्रॉब्लेम असतोच. तर त्याच्यामध्ये अगदीच जर लो तुमचं LVEF असेल तर you can still go for hemodialysis. You can opt for CAPD also. I mean, it depends on many other things, vascular access, and sometimes low ejection fraction patient, they don't tolerate the vascular access done for hemodialysis patient, that is AV fistula. They don't tolerate that AV fistula. In that scenario, we would ask them to go for CAPD. So, both the modalities of dialysis we can apply depending upon the situation.
Right. Okay. Can newly diagnosed CKD patients have rice?
Rice? हो, राईस वगैरे खाऊ शकतात. असं आहे की राईस मध्ये थोडं पाणी जास्त जातं शरीरामध्ये, पण अजिबात मी असं म्हणणार नाही की नाही 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 तुम्ही राईस खाऊ नका. तर तसं तसं नाहीये. यू कॅन हॅव राईस, यू कॅन
Okay,
हॅव राईस.
right. Okay. Are there any fruits that dialysis patients should be avoiding?
Certain fruits, they have high potassium contains. If the patient is on his normal diet and his normal dialysis dose, if he is having a high potassium levels, then we would go back and ask the patient what kind of a diet he is taking. Certain type of fruits or dry fruits, they are very high in potassium.
Right.
Like banana, very high in potassium. Coconut water is high in potassium. So we are then specifically we would ask them to not to take that. Or dry fruits, we specifically would ask not to take dry fruits. But why I'm saying this, because I don't want to generalize this statement that don't eat this, don't eat that. Or every patient, it is a different thing. Whether you can have those fruits or whether you can have those dry fruit depends upon your own kidney damage, your own dialysis dose, and your physiology.
Right.
So
Right.
that is your dietitian or your nephrologist to decide whether you can really have those things or not.
Right. Right. And I guess you
So
can
I don't
also,
want to make any generalized statement because
sure,
I'm very particular about it.
yeah. And maybe you can adjust the quantities,
Because
right? Based on
that is,
discussion.
their morality. I can't eat that. Me खाऊ नहीं शकत. That is very
Right.
damaging to them.
Correct. Correct.
So better
Yeah.
not to give a generalized statement.
Yeah. I guess it's also working with the dietitian and the nephrologist to figure out the
Yes,
quantities, right? So,
yes,
right.
yes.
We've got a question for child patient. How many years can a child patient take tacrolimus?
How many
Years.
years?
हाँ, ऐसा
तो
कुछ
limits,
लिमिट्स हैं?
ऐसा कोई लिमिट नहीं है.
हम्म,
उसको ट्रांसप्लांट किया है या मेरे को लगता है नेफ्रोटिक सिंड्रोम का पेशेंट है तो जो जितने दिन लेना पड़ता है उतने दिन ले सकते हैं. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है
right.
कि उसका लिमिट है, ऐसा
Okay.
नहीं.
Right. Okay. Um, there's a so there's a question. Why does a catheter patient shiver extremely and vomit during dialysis? Anything that can be done to avoid until the fistula starts functioning?
I know. We see this quite often because many of our patients are on either temporary dialysis catheter or pump catheter.
Hmm.
So when they, especially when they are on the sperm catheter, they develop a particular type of biofilm from inside. And whenever there is a catheter, at least Indian patients, they don't touch that area. They don't clean that area.
Hmm.
They get shivering, they get vomiting because their the infection enters into their bloodstream. That infection goes through the skin flora. If you will not keep the surrounding area clean, then the infection will go straight from the side of the catheter into the bloodstream. So one is you should keep the area. You should not. Uh, you should feel free to clean the surrounding area when you are at home. You should clean those everything, dressing and everything. You should keep that clean. Plus, sometime a very long catheter, long lasting catheter for many days. As I said, they develop a biofilm and then they get shivering and fever. So in that case, your nephrologist would advise some antibiotic lock in the catheter or they will give antibiotics intravenously or orally to you. If it is not controlled with all these things, sometimes we have to remove the firm cap or the temporary line because the patient keeps getting fever and shivering.
Right. Okay. Couple of questions related to COVID. One is that if I am COVID positive, then and I don't have very high symptoms, can I manage at home? Or do I need to get hospitalized?
Yeah. These advisories keep changing. Initially, they used to say each and everyone, whoever is COVID positive, should be isolated and should be admitted. But nowadays, they are saying if you are asymptomatic, no problem, you can quarantine yourself in the house, provided you have that kind of, you can afford to isolate yourself in the house. सध्याची जी गाईडलाईन आहे कोविड-19 ची ती सांगते की तुम्ही जर सिम्पटमॅटिक असाल, तुम्हाला चेस्ट मध्ये काही प्रॉब्लेम नसेल आणि तुम्ही तुमच्या घरी व्यवस्थित आयसोलेट होऊ शकत असाल तर तुम्ही घरी आयसोलेट होऊ शकता आणि स्वतः मॉनिटर करू शकता.
Right. Okay. And can a child with nephrotic syndrome, the same, I think the person with the child has again asked a question. Can low protein cause piles?
No. Why should low protein cause piles?
Right.
No, I don't think so.
I guess you could get if your diet doesn't have enough fiber, right?
Yeah.
That's possible.
You get constipated and all.
Right. Why do dialysis patients, I guess a little bit of why does dialysis patient have pain in their legs and how to get relief?
Pain in the legs. Pain in the legs, पायामध्ये दुखायचे पण कारण असतात की एकतर हिमोग्लोबिन कमी असतं त्यांचं किंवा आयरन लेवल त्यांच्या आयर्न लेवल डेफिशियंट असतात त्यांचं किंवा कधी कधी मसल एन्झाईम्सची पण डेफिशियन्सी असते त्याच्यामुळे पण त्यांच्या कॉन्स्टंट पायामध्ये दुखत असतं. बऱ्याचदा मी बघितलेलं आहे की त्यांची ब्लड शुगर बरोबर कंट्रोल नसते तरीही त्यांच्या पायामध्ये दुखत असतं. ब्लड प्रेशर कंट्रोल मध्ये नसतं तरीही त्यांच्या पायामध्ये दुखत असतं. असे बरेच कारण आहेत की ज्याच्यामुळे पायामध्ये दुखू शकतात.
Right. Okay. Couple of other quick questions. Does erythropoietin injection and are erythropoietin injection and iron injection necessary for dialysis patients?
हा, तर याच्यामध्ये थोडंसं आपण इलॅबोरेट मी करते तुम्हाला. एरिथ्रोपोएटिन ही काय गोष्ट आहे आणि का हे इंजेक्शन लागतात आणि आयरन वगैरे का लागतं याच्याबद्दल आपण थोडीशी चर्चा करूया. एरिथ्रोपोएटिन हे हॉर्मोनचं नाव आहे आणि हे हॉर्मोन किडनीमध्ये तयार होतं. ज्या कोणाला कुठल्याही कारणामुळे किडनीचा रोग होतो त्याला त्याची किडनी हे हॉर्मोन कमी प्रमाणात तयार करते. त्याच्यामुळे आता हे हॉर्मोन जे आहेत हिमोग्लोबिन मॉलिक्यूल आहेत. हिमोग्लोबिन मॉलिक्यूल बनण्यासाठी आपल्याला वेगवेगळ्या गोष्टींची गरज असते. प्रोटीनची गरज असते, आयरनची गरज असते, बी कॉम्प्लेक्सची, फोलिक ऍसिडची, सर्वांची गरज असते. त्या सर्वांचं मिळून मग हिमोग्लोबिन मॉलिक्यूल तयार होतं. पण हे मॉलिक्यूल जे बनतं हे बोन मॅरो मध्ये बनतं. बोन मॅरोला एरिथ्रोपोएटिन हॉर्मोन हे इन्स्ट्रक्ट करत असतं की किती ब्लॉक्स बनवायचे, किती हिमोग्लोबिन मॉलिक्यूल बनवायचे. जर तुमच्या किडनीच्या आजारामुळे जर तुमच्या अंगामध्ये जर कमी एरिथ्रोपोएटिन हॉर्मोन बनत असेल तर कोण बोन मॅरोला इन्स्ट्रक्ट करणार की किती हिमोग्लोबिनचे मॉलिक्यूल बनवायचे. म्हणून मग या माणसांचं हिमोग्लोबिन कमी होतं कारण त्यांना एरिथ्रोपोएटिन हॉर्मोनची ही डेफिशियन्सी होते. त्याचबरोबर त्यांचं जेवण वगैरे त्यांना भूक नाही लागत, त्यांना उलटी होत असते, त्याच्यामुळे त्यांचं खाणं पिणं पण बरोबर नसतं. त्यामुळे प्रोटीन डेफिशियन्सी, आयर्न डेफिशियन्सी, व्हिटॅमिन डी डेफिशियन्सी, B12 डेफिशियन्सी सगळ्या डेफिशियन्सीज होतात. त्याच्यामुळे हिमोग्लोबिन मॉलिक्यूल कमी तयार होतं, त्याच्यामुळे हिमोग्लोबिन कमी होतं. तर हे सगळं आपल्याला रिप्लेस करायला लागतं. म्हणून आपल्याला एरिथ्रोपॉयटिन इंजेक्शन घ्यायला लागतं, आपल्याला आयरन इंजेक्शन घ्यायला लागतं, आपल्याला बी कॉम्प्लेक्स घ्यायला लागतं, प्रोटीन घ्यायला लागतं, सगळं घ्यायला लागतं. आता इथे असा प्रश्न आहे, फक्त एकदा घेऊन एकदा हिमोग्लोबिन वरती आणून कामाचं नाही. त्यानंतर जर तुम्ही म्हटलं आता माझं हिमोग्लोबिन वर आलं, आता मी सगळं बंद करून टाकते, तर ते तसं चालणार नाही. कारण शरीरामध्ये ते हॉर्मोन बनणारच नाहीये किंवा कमी प्रमाणातच बनणार आहे. तर तुम्हाला हे कॉन्स्टंटली बाहेरून त्याचं सप्लाय करणं गरजेचंच आहे.
राईट.
म्हणून हे जे इंजेक्शन आहे हे डेफिनेट पर्टिक्युलर टाइमला घेणं गरजेचं असतं.
राईट.
Throughout the course of illness, you need to take those injections. Whether it is erythropoietin, whether it is iron, whether you take iron by injection or tablet, it's a different story. That the nephrologist decides.
Okay. One question which has come, difference between acute kidney injury and chronic kidney disease.
Yeah, it is very important to know the difference between acute kidney injury and chronic kidney disease. Acute kidney injury is patient is all right, something happens suddenly, an insult to the body. For example, I'll take few examples. Severe gastroenteritis, like say cholera, severe malaria, snake bite. You know, these are snake bite is now rainy season, so let's talk about snake bite as well. So something happens to the body, some insult happens to the body, and that insults the kidney, and kidney shuts down, stops working. So that is acute kidney injury. The best part of this is it is reversible. Patient goes to the hospital, gets admitted, ICU or in general ward, gets treated, and majority of the patient, they recover from this acute kidney injury. That is a good part of it. If this injury is very severe, then that patient will require dialysis for that shorter period of time.
Right.
This is very important to know, that patient will require dialysis for that shorter period of time.
Right.
As against chronic kidney disease goes through various stages, 1 to 5. And it starts with a smaller damage to the kidney. Then it grows, from stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stage 5 is where all your kidney function is gone. That is called as end stage renal failure.
Right.
Where your kidney function is less than 15%. Now the commonest causes for this is diabetes, hypertension, polycystic kidney disease. They fall, IgA nephropathy, they fall in this category of chronic kidney disease. Now the bad part of this disease, once it develops, once it goes from one stage to another, it is irreversible. It is irreversible. That is the bad part of this disease, CKD. Right. So that is the difference. One is reversible, another is irreversible.
Right. Okay. My creatinine level is 7.9, but I don't have any problem. My doctor is suggesting dialysis. I am very scared. My age is 23.
Right. See, I don't know what is the cause of your creatinine being 7.9, but whatever it is, since you have been advised dialysis, I suppose it is a chronic kidney disease. So our body keeps adjusting to the newer level of creatinine or newer level of eGFR, that is glomerular filtration rate. Right. Your body is probably well adjusted with 7.9 creatinine. But as it will go in next stage, from 7.9, probably it will go to 8.5, 9, and then your body will start decompensating. It will not be able to compensate properly further. At that time, you will have to start on dialysis. So probably if you are asymptomatic at this stage, probably your nephrologist is giving you all the information and preparing you for further treatment.
Right. Okay. I think we need to wind up, but we'll take a couple of last questions. Okay, somebody is asking, can Lasix tablet help to urinate more? Like if it's suggested 110 dosage,
Yeah,
does 220 dosage help to increase urine passing?
it's a very nice question. It's a very good question. Lasix is a diuretic. It is also called as water tablet. If you take those tablets, it stimulates the kidney and makes the kidney pass more water as well as a little bit of a salt as well.
Mm.
Do advise kidney patients to take furosemide or Lasix, whatever it is, torsemide, the same group of medicine, so that they not to pass more urine, but to remove whatever extra water they are retaining. We are very particular about it. We give those tablets not to pass urine, but to get rid of the extra water which is retaining in the body.
Right.
So now the requirement of that, whether 110 or 220, is decided by how much fluid you take, how much kidney has a capacity to filter it out, and in what environment you are living, you are there at that particular time. Whether you are sitting in an AC room or you are going in the hot summer, you know, that decides how much tablet you need. And you
Right.
should learn that from your nephrologist. At least I teach my patients how to manage the doses on their own so that their body can stay in a same stage,
Steady state. Right.
steady state. That's
Right.
a word.
Right. One question somebody's asking, creatinine level 5.6, what precautions should I take?
Creatinine level is 5.6. That means one is you should be regularly attending a nephrology OPD. You should regularly do certain renal function tests. Anyway, that your doctor will do it for you. From your side, you should monitor how much fluid you are taking, how much urine you are passing, what kind of a diet you are taking, what is your weight, what is your blood pressure. These things, certain things you should monitor yourself at home.
Mm.
The other things, the doctor will do it for you.
Okay, thank you. And one other question, why after transplant is calcium tablet needed?
After transplant,
Yeah.
not everyone needs calcium tablet, but if there is any problem, the
There must be a reason why the
doctor,
doctor has
yes,
recommended. Right. And one last question, are the creatinine and bun levels correlated?
yes. One level is blood.
Sorry, you've gone mute, doctor.
I didn't do anything.
Oh, now you're back. Now you're back.
Blood urea nitrogen and blood urea, they are one and the same measurement. Only the blood urea nitrogen is half of blood urea. As the serum creatinine goes high, the blood urea also goes high. In CKD patient, it is in 1:10 ratio. Creatinine 1, urea 10. In that ratio, it rises.
Right.
So basically, it increases in kidney failure.
Okay. All right. I think, doctor, you've actually answered a lot of questions. I know there's a couple of I think the person, okay, I'll just take this. I think this person's really struggling with his child. So it says we've been giving TAC capsule to a child, same nephrotic syndrome, 3 years, but still protein leaks from his body and hasn't come nil in the report. Can this lead to major effect to his body in future?
Yes, it can. It can go on to develop chronic kidney disease as well. Yes, it
Okay.
can.
Okay. So thank you, doctor. Thank you for taking the time and answering all the questions in so much detail, explaining
Yeah.
both in Marathi and in English. So
Trying to struggle with both
I
the
know
languages.
it's not easy.
But yeah,
So, but I think it is important that we try and cover in local languages because there's a lot of people who benefit with that. So thank you for
yeah.
making that effort, and thank you to the audience who has asked a lot of questions and those who are watching us on Facebook. And thank you to Biocon and Kidney Warriors Foundation for supporting uh, these awareness webinars. Uh, we all need to stay safe and stay healthy and be careful as much as possible in these difficult times. But I think we should not worry too much. I think it's important to focus on what we can do rather than what we can't. So once again, thank you everyone, and thank you, Dr. Zope, once again from.
Thank you, Aparna.
All right.
Thank you.